Metrolink expansion, which is just a pipe dream. Got a little attention this week because Mayor Slay was talking about it and walking the streets with some officials about it. Tony Messenger wrote about it and talked about it yesterday. County Executive Senior Policy Advisor to Steve Stanger, Tom Curran, wants to chime in on the whole thing. Good morning, Tom. Thanks for joining us here on the Big 550 KTRS.
Good morning. It's good to be here.
You got it. What's Steve Stanger saying about all this north side, south side stuff?
Well, I met with the head of the Federal Transit Administration, Carolyn Flowers, on Tuesday when she and her staff were in town touring facilities where FDA had invested money, the same visit that Mayor Slay had walked her around on. So we met Tuesday afternoon when she visited the North County Transit Center in Ferguson, which is a major investment that FTA helped fund. And at that time, the FTA official told me that they were happy that all 4 potential Metrolink expansion routes are going to be studied at the same time. And we believe that these studies will give the regional leaders the complete information that they need to make decisions about which route should be pursued. And so the county executive has said all along he's not endorsing any specific Metrolink route, but he does believe that it's critical for our regional leaders to get all the information necessary before they make a decision on expansion.
Yeah, so this has been his and a little bit of ruffled feathers from time to time because somebody isn't playing well with others or somebody's forgetting to tell the other one what's going on. But Steve Stanger has been very adamant that he wants to study all these different routes before deciding what.
Well, the potential for light rail expansion is a big decision for our region, and we really need to let the regional leaders make that decision. And that decision is actually made at East-West Gateway, which is our transportation planning agency for the region. And so the questions that we want answered is basically which routes would best connect people to jobs, which lines would be the most cost-effective, where would we get the greatest relief from traffic congestion, and where can we spark new economic development. And we think those answers will be provided by these studies.
And if it comes back after this plan that the north-south Metrolink extension would be the best for all of those things, would Steve Stanger support that?
Well, East-West Gateway would make that decision, and Mr. Stanger is part of East-West Gateway, and he'd have to look at all the details at that time. One thing I do want to point out is that the county executive did move to broaden the study of our Metro North line. So that is the line that contains a connector piece that would extend through Ferguson and other parts of North County, and that would actually connect with North Side, South Side through the city of St. Louis. And something that I want to point out is the original North Side, South Side alignment did include that Ferguson piece up to North County and the St. Louis Community College. The city proposal that's studying North Side right now stops at the city limit. So we want those pieces to be integrated. We don't want Ferguson to be skipped. And none of these routes have really been studied in detail since 2008, and some haven't been changed or studied since 2000, and then a lot has changed since then.
The interesting thing about all of this, Tom, is that no matter which they choose to do, if any, more people are going to complain because you're only going to help a small number of people go from point A to point B if any of these are built. I was talking to a community leader this week, and his argument was, even if you build any one of these, it still isn't enough. We need a massive influx of Metrolink. All 4 of them should be built and more. So the question is, are we either going to do it piecemeal or are we going to do it all, the whole thing together?
Well, the question always comes down to money, and the Colorado example was brought up, Denver, and their multi-county expansion. But we really need a lot of participants in this, and we need some creative financing as well. We know that to be competitive for those federal funds, you need at least a 50% match, and that was something that was brought up in your previous show. So we do have revenue streams in place from Proposition A and Proposition M that were approved by the voters that will help do that. But nobody does it just all one way anymore. It's really putting things together. Another thing that I want to point out is all of these studies and what would eventually be built, these are really long-term issues. So while we're trying to move these projects forward, we also need to not lose sight of some of the more important and pressing issues that we could help address today. I had a meeting yesterday with a number of business leaders, and their big concern is public safety and making sure that crime in the city and the whole perception of St. Louis isn't holding us back as a place to do business. And if we could reduce that violent crime rate in the city, I think we would do a lot to help our image. That would improve our chances of getting Metrolink expanded, and having people use it. More than anything else, we need our residents to feel safe in the community and on mass transit.
We talked about it earlier in the week, and we had a number of phone calls automatically bring up the fact that Metrolink expansion brings crime. Mayor Slay said anybody who says that is racist. Where do you stand? Do you think if a Metrolink line is built, crime will uptick in that area because it's a porthole to criminals to get from point A to point B?
No, I don't think that's a fair statement. I do think that public safety is a paramount concern for the county executive, and we did move to double the number of officers that we have from 22 to 44 St. Louis County police officers on Metrolink. Anywhere there is activity, there is a potential for some people to commit crimes. That's true of a grocery store, of a Walmart, of a ballpark. But it's really not. Those are just instances where we need to basically have more police presence and make people know that there is a system in place to keep them safe if they're using it. But no, I disagree with the statement that it would automatically bring crime.
Tom, last question for you. Some people say that Steve Stenger wants more study is a perfect stall tactic because he doesn't want Metrolink expansion at all, and he can't say that publicly, so he actually says, let's study it more, and by studying it more is just a way for him to delay any action at all.
No, actually, that's not true. Our study that St. Louis County will be conducting of the three routes in the county, and that includes some portions in the city, are actually going to be going on at the same time as the city study. And the nature of the city study is such that they have an 18-month study window, and we have a 12-month study window. So I think all of these things are going to be taking place at the same time, and all these studies are probably going to wrap up at the same time, too. So the county executive is absolutely interested in Metrolink expansion.
Tom Curran, Senior Policy Advisor to County Executive Steve Stenger. Tom, thanks for coming in. Always welcome here.
Great to be on.
You got
Thank
it.
you.